Hello and welcome to the table. I'm Windle.
I'm Steve Rain. And I'm Jonathan Hicks.
And this is part 2 of my top 30 games of all time. So we're doing numbers 20 through 11. Did you enjoy my first 10 that you can remember? It's been so long ago.
No, there were some of the games I thought you'd rank higher than you were, and I was surprised to see Power Grid on there, I think, because we don't play it that often.
I was surprised to see that on there. I guess just because it's older. It is really good, but
I think I've only played it once with you, and I don't think you ever asked for it, so with that in mind, I think you must quite like it.
I've played it a few times, other people's copies, so I think...
Number 20.
So my number 20 is my lighter but longer hidden roll game. It's Dark Moon. You like Dark Moon?
I do like Dark Moon, yeah.
You're not a big fan of hidden roll games, or
it's good.
That.
It's only one of the better ones.
Yeah. So Dark Moon is, I guess, essentially aliens in space, where you're on some sort of space station outpost on a desolate planet, let's say, and there are things turning against you, and it's the standard. I'm trying to work out who is actually turning against me, and they're trying to destroy the space station, whatever it is, as it slowly falls apart. But it's not like a shorter one like One on of Werewolf. There's more game to it. There's more rounds. You're completing objectives as a group. The mechanism in this that's important is that you're rolling dice behind a screen that you then add to the like a total. Say if you need a 7, but the dice generally go from like 2, 0, -2, -4, something like that, or ranges of generally more bad results than good. Yeah. So you're rolling dice, and you may want to help. But if you've just got a load of negative numbers and you have to put in a dice because you have to declare at the start whether you're going to help or not, then you're putting in negative dice, which immediately makes you look like you're working against everybody. But then everybody else is doing that same thing, so you're kind of having to work out. That's, I guess, how it's tried to keep some speed into the game, because it forces you to do bad things even when you don't want to.
That's the strength of it, and that's why it beats out things like Battlestar Galactica, because a lot of these other games, and Jonathan has this problem, that basically it's a lot of you're lying, no, you're lying, and there's no reason to suspect anyone's lying. Yeah. Here, when people keep submitting negative dice, which is a completely valid thing they could do, you're like, the frequency in which you're doing it makes me think you're lying, and you're like, no, I'm honestly not. I'm honestly not. And that sort of strength is that you actually have a reason to suspect people in this, even if they're actually being honest.
Yeah. I mean, I like it because there's just that bit more game to it than just one of these standard party style hidden roll games. I like the fact that there's things you've got to complete. There's just a bit more going on, and there's a bit more chance for subterfuge as opposed to just I've got to lie from walking straight in. And that I enjoy that more, the fact that it has that little bit of length. You can just play with people a little bit more if you're on the evil side, I guess.
Yeah. The length is really nice, I think, because Battlestar Galactica can really drag on if you're not careful, and most of the other ones are very short, aren't they?
Yeah.
But if you want something that kind of hour length, it works very well.
Yeah, I agree.
Number 19.
So my next game is definitely on your list, and that's Caverna, the cave trolls. So I like it because it's about the building of your little mini family, I guess, as you're adding to your cave, adding to your outside area, getting cows and sheep and stuff, and just like that whole building at the end of it, I feel like I've got somewhere.
You've got an empire, haven't you?
Even if it's a rubbish one, it's still that from the start to the end of the game, you've made something, and hopefully it's going to score you loads of points. And there's a lot of tiles you're trying to maximise combos. Early on you need to find a way of providing food in an efficient manner that you can then later hopefully score off of. But you've talked about it already, and most people know it's the newer version of Agricola, and I think, obviously Agricola isn't on my list. I much prefer this to that, because it's not quite as nasty. I think it's the one and I think I just enjoy the progression of the game more.
I think you've always got some options to take on your turn. You're like, oh, he's just taken the one I really wanted. That's fine, these two are pretty good as well. When Agricola, you think, oh, now he's taken that, I'm going to lose points in the game because I won't be able to do this particular thing to avoid me losing points.
Yeah, it's not quite as tight, and there's just so many options. That's what I like. When you want to buy one of the, they're not buildings, are they? But when you sort of transform your cave or something,
rooms, aren't they?
There's just so many to pick from. It's like, whoa, I could get this or this. Oh, that looks exciting. I'll try that this game. And there's various strategies you can build around the different rooms, aren't there? But there's so much choice. It's great.
I do like Caverna, and I do like Caverna over Agricola, so I'll be with Mark here as well.
Number 18.
And my number 17, I know that we both like, that we didn't all play in the same group when we played through it, and that's Mechs versus Minions.
Oh, yes.
The massive Riot Games release of end of last year that I can remember actually reserving at Essen last year while in a hotel on a terrible Wi-Fi connection. Yeah, I don't think I've ever opened a single package for the price I paid for it and went, wow, actually felt like good value for money. And considering it was like £80 or whatever in the UK. The miniatures are beautiful, the quality of all the components are great, but the fact that underneath that is a really, really, really good cooperative game that's tense at times, certainly frantic. When you have hordes and hordes of minions coming at you and you think, well, how are we going to deal with all these? But then somebody manages to get the one power up they need so they can now shoot forward, fire lasers everywhere and destroy half things on the board. That's fun.
Yeah.
I think what's more fun is the person who does the opposite of that. The person who does the opposite of that gets hit by a few minions and starts spinning out of control, finishing completely the other side of the board the where we need that person to be. But the fact is you've got other people who kind of have to pick up the slack and deal with it. I think that's hilarious.
Because one of the difficulties, with any game where you're taking a character and fighting monsters, in this case minions, one of the difficulties is how you take wounds, and what happens if you take so many wounds that your character dies. And this deals with it really well, because you don't actually take wounds, but when you get damaged, it messes up your programmed command line effectively. It might swap cards around, or add extra cards on top.
Add additional movement that you didn't want, or additional things you didn't want.
So your robot ends up sort of spinning out of control and not doing what you want. So it's not terrible, you're not going to die, but it can really mess with your plan. So it's important not to get hit, but it just deals with that so well.
You get hit nearly every game as well, so you've got to deal with it the best you can.
Yeah, and there's a lot of thinking on your feet, especially when you're obviously got to pull cards anyway, because it's only a time section of actually grabbing the cards, but it's not a methodical thinking. You try to do that, and then suddenly things work against you and you have to do it. It always reminds me, I think, that scene from one of the Star Wars films where R2-D2 gets like electric shock and spins around a bit, and that's exactly how everybody's doing.
Yeah.
It's very good and it's just gorgeous. So what you get for the money is brilliant. If you haven't had a chance to go, I'd seriously recommend that. Give it a go.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 17.
So this next one for me was the most difficult one to place on my list, because it's one of those games that I can only play once, and that's just exit room games. I'm not doing Unlock and Exit and all the other ones. I've just gone any exit room game that's good, so any of the good series, because I don't know where to put it. I kind of put it in the middle of my list-ish because I can only play it once, but they're all a really good time. But then I can't play again for another 3 or 6 months, and then I can only play them for an hour, and they're all really fun. I mean, we love playing the exit. We like the whole idea of solving the puzzles. We like the working together, and I mean, like I think you said before, the best thing is when you're looking at something, you know, and one of the other people just thinking on a completely different wavelength. What if you do that? You just go, how did I not see that?
Hold it like this, put it against the light, bend it that way, all these weird things.
And just go, oh, good. But it's the it's the stress, because when we do try to do it in a decent time as well, Steve particularly gets a little bit fidgety when it's getting close to an hour. But I mean, these could easily be at times number one on my list, but because of the one playthrough I didn't feel comfortable putting there, so I put it around the middle.
I think we said before that if a new one comes out, it is our number one game we'd like to play. And that hasn't changed, despite the fact I've now done close to 10 of them, I suppose.
I feel like it's kind of in olden times when a circus comes to town. It's like the circus doesn't often come to town, but when it does, you just want to go straight for the circus. It's better than anything else. You just wish they could stay in town all year.
But I fully endorse Mark's. It's very hard to rank these sort of games based on the enjoyment alone. If you count each one as the first time you've played that sort of game, there's no other game that I can play for one time and enjoy it so much as that.
Agreed.
Number 16.
So my next game is lower down the list than when I first planned the game, because the software I use, we obviously chose it, go rate things, and it was just lower down than I thought it'd be, and it's exactly the same reason that Jonathan said, and that's Mage Knight, and it's just because just don't play it as much anymore. It's an amazing experience of setting out for starting as a tiny insignificant thing and then moving up again harder and harder and harder and fighting bigger and bigger things, and the whole story and progression as you do that is fantastic. But it is quite an intense story doing that. It's not even just a case of it's a long game. It's a long game that is stressful from the start to the end, and the amount of maths and all the different symbology and like working all the different powers you have against with each other to boost your attacks against their like vulnerabilities and stuff. It's an amazing experience, but it's an amazing experience that isn't an amazing experience I want to play regularly anymore. Yeah. Whether it's because my tastes are changing over time or whatever, but I find it, just because it's so intense for so long, that it can be quite hard. But I mean, I still love the game, and it's still in my top 30. I went from my top 20, so I can't knock the game. It's just really hard to describe.
If it came out today and we hadn't played it, knowing what an experience it is, it would probably go to my #1 game.
Yeah.
Because it is just an amazing experience. It's just, we've played it so many times now, but if you've not played it and you like that kind of heavy fantasy exploration, but with lots of strategy, thinking carefully about your moves, it's just superb. Really, really good.
I've played it once. It's not my sort of game, so I think once is enough for me.
Yeah, if you like sci-fi stuff with Star Trek, there's obviously Star Trek Frontiers, which is essentially the same game with a slight tweaks here and there, but it will give you the same experience.
I noticed on the Dice Towers People's Choice Top 100 that this is on there, but the Star Trek one isn't, which is interesting. I haven't tried the Star Trek one, and I don't know why, but the fantasy theme just engages me far more. It seems to make far more sense.
I think it would for me too. If I had to pick one theme over the other, the fantasy theme just feels more me, I think.
I think just like gaining magic items and killing massive dragons makes more sense than my ship blowing off a bigger ship.
I think it's easy to get nicer art and nicer feel to the game.
Yes.
I'm generally not a space theme fan, and I'm not really a Star Trek fan either.
Yeah, I think it's probably a more generic flavour than people can just dislike Star Trek. Well, I mean, people dislike generally fantasy, but it's going to be to have less things against it, I suppose.
Number 15.
So the next one for me knocked Dungeon Lords out of my top 30. Because I do like themed Euros, though less so at the moment. There's less good ones, and that's Trickerion Legends of Illusion, which I know that the first time we played this, we played it wrong, and I suppose it is quite clunky in places. But for me, the theme is strong enough to bleed through past that. I think the thing that I can remember when playing with you, you played it, it made me want to go and watch the procedures again. And that's really, it is rough around the edges as far as the worker placement game goes. But I do like the card placement, as in I'm going to now activate. Like you do all your cards face down on which person's going to go to what location. You essentially have a list of locations and cards, and you can go wherever around the board, and that's all done hidden at the same time, which sort of is similar to how Dungeon Lords work. And then you'll take it one at a time to then go to this location. So you have the oh no, please don't choose to go there, because each character can have a certain number of actions, and you have better. You being the magician is the best one, you can do the most, but weaker ones can do less. So and the different spots on the board have different difficulty, so at times you really need to go somewhere, and then somebody goes there, and you're like, well, I can't do anything with this guy anymore because he isn't good enough unless he's on the best spot. But that's the risk you take. But yeah, I like well-themed Euros, and I can't think of one much better than this.
The theme is fantastic, I think. You know, you're kind of a magician trying to make magic tricks as you go through, which is great. And the game is good, I think. It's a little bit clunky, but it is a good game. I enjoyed it. You know, because it got some bad press, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I did really enjoy it. I'm just surprised it's this high, and I'm surprised that Dungeon Lords isn't high.
I would have thought Dungeon Lords was still to come.
I think I would rate Dungeon Lords over Trickerion for me, but you prefer it.
I think as time's gone on with Dungeon Lords, I don't want to teach anybody how to play that game anymore.
Okay.
Well, I will teach them to play Trickerion because it's not that bad. But Dungeon Lords has a whole section, and I think that's just round down. The combat section is just too fiddly. The actual worker placement bit is a stronger game, but then you've got to do this bit at the end of both the seasons, and I don't want to teach it to anybody anymore.
That is my least favourite bit of Dungeon Lords, to be honest. But Trickerion, we played, and I feel a bit harsh to not like this game as much as these two guys, because we played one of the rules wrong at the start, the very first game we played. I have played it twice, I didn't play with the correct rules. But I bought some wood, and then when I made my trick, I spent the wood. But you don't spend it, you keep it. So you have like an infinite supply of wood, but some tricks need double wood. So you'd have to buy a second wood, even though your first wood is never going to get spent. You need to buy a second one. And so we played it initially that we spent the resource. I'm like, I can't get any money. I can't get anything done. I had a really bad first experience. Played it again. Did better the second play because we played the correct rules. But I think I sometimes find it very hard after a bad playthrough to actually then go back and like a game. So maybe I'm not giving enough credit there, because it is a solid game. The theme is great. If you do like. It's kind of like steampunk, not quite steampunky. No, it's not steampunk.
No, there is a little bit of steampunk in the background.
Victoria.
It's like the Prestige.
Yeah,
it's got that slight overtone of steampunk.
And that is one of my favourite movies of all time. So I really think the theme is very strong, and I think I probably need to give the game another go.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I enjoyed it more when I played the full game, which has like a Dark Alleys, because it allows you to get special cards that
we played that?
I think we played the second,
yeah.
and essentially it gives you so the locational cards will also give you a special ability to the card, but you have to take an action to take one of those cards, and I think that worked out better into it. And then there's other things like, I mean, you can even give your individual magicians different powers, which is quite cool. But then that gets into a whole lot of thinking.
Makes the game quite complicated, I guess.
Number 14.
So my next one is one of my favourite games of last year, and that's Mansions of Madness, 2nd edition, not the 1st edition. This is the best implementation of an app used in a game by a country mile, because you do feel like you're going around a haunted house or whatever, and because the app can do more interesting things with not just monsters coming on the boards, but events happening and stuff. And the whole exploration is that you start in a room, you open a door, then it shows you what's behind the door. And the fact that these, I mean, set in scenarios, but they can change. On the same scenario can have a different map, and the events can go slightly different depending on, I guess, a random thing going on in the background of the app. But yeah, it's Lovecraft, which I do quite like the Cthulhu stuff. It suits the horror thing perfectly really well. But the stories that they craft, and the fact that the variation in some of the scenarios I've played, from like a murder mystery on to just the standard keep everybody alive sort of thing, just makes it really fun.
Yeah, I like there's a soundtrack that's playing in the app. You get the voiceover, like voice acting, and that's all really well done. It is a superb app. Really creates atmosphere. You know, on top of what a normal game can provide, it just adds a layer of atmosphere, which is great. The miniatures are great. I mean, production is Fantasy Flight. The production quality is superb. My only issue with it really is probably the length. It's just most of the scenarios go on for a few hours.
Yeah.
It's quite long. If they had more of the shorter ones, I think I'd play it more.
I agree. I think certainly the starting set led towards the longer end. I think some of because they've added quite a lot. I mean, it's Fantasy Flight. There's more expansions now. There's lots more expansions, but I think there are more on the 60 to 90 minutes. Well, a lot of them are like 90 to 2 hours plus. Yeah. Which I agree. I mean, I think you can save it between if you want to, but anything like that, you lose the theme, like the feeling, if you suddenly break up halfway through it.
And it's difficult to take it all down and set it all up.
Yeah.
I guess you could leave it set up on the table maybe, but
yeah.
I've not played it.
And you never will.
If it was a short game, I'd try it. I think
it's not short.
I know I'm not. That's not my sort of game, and that's a long time to dedicate to trying something like that.
It's an adventure game. Yeah, there's no great strategy to it. You're just exploring, seeing what happens, but it's just so well
exploration is probably the best bit, I think. The fact that you don't, and the first time you set into a scenario, you just see one room, and you think there's a whole world I'm about to explore. And I have no idea because I don't pre-set up the map.
Yeah.
Number 13.
So number 13 is my favourite hit and roll game, but good luck trying to get hold of it now.
Fear of Dracula?
That is correct.
It's sold out again, doesn't it?
Fantasy Flight lost the licence. Whiskers have taken it over.
I wonder what happened.
But I probably shouldn't say this on video, but obviously everybody's waiting with a bated breath on how the WizKids Cup is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be hard pressed to live up to Fantasy Flight's production quality.
Yeah, well, it's fair. The miniatures were actually the old ones from the second edition, so they're not that great. But the board and the cards, everything on the artwork are fantastic. But yeah, it's a hidden roll game. One person's playing Dracula, who's slowly leaving vampire spawn around the world that you as investigator have got to make sure to find before they hatch or whatever come to be real vampires, so that he gets more power, and then you've got to at some point try to kill him off. It's epic. As far as hidden roll games go, it's epic. I've played a few. I've played less of Whitechapel, which is the most pure hidden roll game, I guess, because it's literally just hidden roll. There's not much sitting on top of that. All the way to I can't remember the more scientific one, Spectre Ops. That's what I'm thinking, which was more literal lines of sight and stuff as opposed to you moving around a map. But yeah, it's as big a hidden roll game as you can get. It isn't super short. I think you can play it with players who know what they're doing, you can play it quicker, but that's the problem. It's one of those that with players that know what they're doing, you play a decent time.
I think even when people know what they're doing, they still want to analyse it, and because they don't want to rush. Because a mistake can set you back you can lose. If there's no mistake, you can lose quite easily.
And that's my difficulty, I suppose, with this kind of game in general, but particularly with this one, is that if you're playing with a new player, and if they're playing a critical role, like you can't have a new player playing Dracula.
No.
Or it's not the same game. You need to make sure everyone's played it at least once, and then you kind of move up to this second level, don't you? And the game becomes very different.
I think my favourite time playing it is when I was playing with you, and I was Dracula, and I was literally at most time one space ahead of where I needed it. It was literally the entire game was me just going, and it was stressful for an hour and a half, and they finally got in the end. I didn't take the dive up a direction that I could have at one point, and then they'd send it on me. But the experience was amazing, if tense for a long time.
I wonder if it's more enjoyable to be Dracula.
Yeah, probably, because being hunter's always more fun than being the hunter.
If you're one of the hunters, there's three other hunters, and they're near Dracula, and you're not. You're like, well, where shall I go now? I don't know, because I think you really enjoyed that game.
Yeah.
That one. That's the only time I've played it, actually.
I've played the game that a lot of these games are based on is Scotland Yard, which is quite an old game, and I played that one a lot, as a child and as an adult with my son. And I enjoy doing both the guy running away and the people chasing. Like for the people chasing, which is the detective of Scotland Yard, it's like a little puzzle you've got to solve. Well, you could be here, or here. So if you cut off that route, we cut off this route, and we could get through here, and we better cut off that whole. You've also got to be careful about what you say you're going to do. That's right.
Because he can listen in.
I like that kind of
bluff,
game.
but I would much prefer to be the guy being chased and double bluff you.
Yes,
I would love that. And you've got to cater sometimes. Is Steve double bluffing or is he not?
You just backtrack.
You do get the odd card, like the Dracula has special powers, such as one that allows him to actually stay on the same spot, otherwise he knows has to move, which just break you up that little bit, and I think they're important when you have better hunters.
This probably does it better than most hidden roll movement games at all. I think it's just the length that puts me off.
That's fair enough.
Number 12.
I believe, as far as our game group goes, this is the most divisive game on my list. And I know that you hate it. I don't think you're a massive fan of it. What's the game that I really like the most that you hate the most?
I was going to say Trickerion.
Set in space.
Oh, Space Alert.
No.
Galaxy Trucker?
No, not Galaxy Trucker. Everybody has stupid powers.
Oh no! Cosmic Encounter.
It is Cosmic Encounter. I think it's not your sort of thing, and I know you just detest it.
I played it twice. I did play it twice. So.
You did play it twice. It's what? Mental negotiation of the board game. It does at times, playing it, feel a little dated in places, but I don't care because the powers are stupid, and played with the right group you can have a blast. It's hilarious, it can leave you in tears. It is one of those games that I like a lot, that bit in particular, if people don't like the game, there's nothing that's going to change in that game to ever make them like it. You either love the game or I think you're going to be kind of just put off from it to dislike it altogether, like Steve?
I mean, I generally don't like confrontation games, but I was actually moderately okay with the game until the very last turn. Rob attacked Sarah. There's 3 of us on 4.
Yeah.
You need 5 points to win, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. Rob attacked Sarah, and they said, "I'll make a deal. We'll give 1 each." And so I went, all right. And so they both won. I'm like, oh, 2 hours, and they just trained for the win. That's not how it should be done. They should have fought for the win. And that just one little thing at the end, the fact that can be done, the fact that you can it's pick on the leader a bit as well, like that. And there's a lot of mechanics in it that I don't like. For me, it's not my style game.
That's fair.
I can definitely see, with all the bizarreness you can get, that it is clearly a game that a lot of people will like. Just all the different powers interacting and different meshing and all the backstabbing you can do. Just there's a lot of those things that I just generally don't like in games.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's just negotiation, and that's the central mechanic that I'm just not that keen on. But if you like negotiation, I don't think there's a game that does it much better than this. I can see that it's a very good quality game. It's just not one I enjoy.
If you like negotiation games and you're happy with them being chaotic, it's by far the best because it's funny and it is very, very funny.
You've got to take it with, you've got to approach it with that pinch of salt. I find it, me personally, find it very hard to do that in games.
I think I just don't play to win because I don't know how you devise a strategy to win. I think you're just going to be opportunist and get the right negotiation at the right time.
Number 11.
So this is the last one in my 11 through 20, and it's the other high-themed worker placement game that I know I really like, but I haven't been able to play in ages, but I did back the Kickstarter recently, and that is Argent, the Consortium.
Oh yeah, I thought this would be in your top 10 actually.
It just squeezed out, it was really tough. It's just because I haven't played it in quite a while, but I like this even more than Trickerion because I think despite the kind of cool moving around, taking the spaces on the board, which have different levels of power and stuff, I really like the hidden scoring cards. I think that's what sets this different from other games, is that you don't know what you're scoring at the start. Some of the actions to find out what those scoring cards are. And so you're a mixture of taking those actions, but also looking at what the players are doing, thinking they must be scoring something. That saves me an action if I guess it right. And you don't want to be wasting action to find scoring cards. So it adds that almost a little bit of bluffing, because you can collect stuff just for the sake of it, just unless you then find out you were collecting something that actually scored.
This game's got a lot of things good about it. The fact that the order in which the spaces activate and you go across and up and down, and each tile can be double-sided. There's just so much this game. It takes quite a while, but generally I'm not a fan of long games. I actually really like this one.
It's a massive table hog.
Yeah. You played it?
Yeah, I've played it a few times. And there's just so many choices. Against one of those where you look at it and go, ooh, I need to go there. Oh, but that's really good. But you're sort of spoiled for choice to a certain extent.
You've got several workers and you kind of draft them at the start, and they all have different powers. But the fact is, let's say, how many workers do you have? 5, is it?
Well, the different colours, 5 or 6.
You have 5, and you think you got 5 actions a turn. No, you don't, because some of the people's actions will bump yours off and kill yours and move yours to different spaces. So you don't necessarily get the 5 actions you put your workers down for, because things happen afterwards. All these other wizards do stuff.
Not many workplace games let you fireball another players just to take its
You're in my spot.
It's a really unusual worker placement. When you say worker placement, you picture something, but this is a whole layer on top of that, isn't it?
It has that Japanese anime sort of feel, score magic.
Yeah, it's like they've overloaded it with lots of different things, and it doesn't actually feel out of place. I think so.
Yeah, it's great.
Yep. So I'm waiting for the Kickstarter to come through, which won't be too far, hopefully now. So that was my 20 through 11 of my top 30 games of all time. Any thoughts from either of you two?
There's a couple of games on there that I thought would be higher. A few of Dracula and Argent, the Consortium, I thought would be in your top 10. I was trying to mentally make a list of what hasn't come up yet, and I thought they'd be there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of thematic games there. A lot of games with theme.
Long games as well. Quite a few games. A good 3-4 hours potentially.
Oh god, you're going to hate the rest of the list then?
Yeah, when Mark brings a game to the table, like, it's generally going to be longer than what I'm suggesting at an equal time.
Well, I guess we'll call that one a day. So I've been Mark Windle.
I've been Steve Rain. And I'm Jonathan Hicks.
And we've been The Table at the Dice Field. Goodbye.